Hello, my name is Andreas Vanax, and I'm here to bring you good tidings. Luke, verse 2:10 tells us, And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. The problem is that we no longer know when Jesus Christ was born. How is that even possible? If we go to any to website and we search for Jesus Christ wiki, the commonly accepted dates for his birth are 6 to 4 BC instead of 1 AD. And the dates of his death are 30 AD to 33 AD. They don't know. Most scholars, most university professors and historians are lost. They're floating in the wind. But I'm here to tell you the good news. We can figure it out. And we can figure it out exactly. To do that, we're going to need several things. One of them is a searchable version of the Bible, which is not copyrighted. There is the King James version of 1611, which is available at this link right here. If you go ahead and copy the link, let's say copy, and put it on your web browser, paste, and immediately download the version of the Bible. And then you can save it into your hard drive, which is preferable. That way you don't have to download it every time. The nice thing about it is it searches through the entire Bible for key phrases. Or you can go ahead and search for the Gospel of Matthew, or the Gospel of Mark, or Luke, or John. So this is very convenient. So this is an essential tool to have when studying Bible studies. I will show you here how to calculate the dates in which Jesus Christ was born, in which Jesus Christ was crucified. And this can be calculated and determined exactly. We will know the year, we will know the month, we will know the day, and in some cases we'll know it down to the minute. So please support my work if you plan on or enjoy what the work I'm doing and plan to support me. So please like and subscribe. We discussed the problem related to the dates of Jesus Christ. And the core problem of the confusion is that most historians think that Herod died in 4 BC. If Herod died in 4 BC, then Jesus Christ must have been born before that, in 5 BC or 6 BC, which is what the Wikipedia tells us. Or was it? Yeah. 6 to 4 BC. And the reason for the confusion um, is that the date in which Herod died is tied to how many years his son Archelaus reigned. And we know when Archelaus was banished from Judea, and if you knew how many years he reigned, then we could calculate when Herod died. The problem is that based on a dream that they think Archelaus had, they think that it said that he reigned 9 years, or in another place it says 10 years. So it's all based on a dream. It's all superstition and speculation. And I'll show you how to fix that problem. The only way to be sure about your dates is to tie it to astronomical events. For example, in the past, people calculated dates of prior events based on the Trojan War, so many years after the Trojan War, etc. But those numbers are all over the place. In some cases, the people say, oh, the Trojan War was 1,000 years before this event. Some people say, no, it's 800 years. Some people say it was 1,600 years. So it's all over the place, so that cannot be used. Another thing that can be used is the years from the foundation of Rome. I think it's ab urbe condita. Or AUC. The years from the foundation of the city. The problem with that, if you read various accounts, if you read Paterculus, for example, who was a soldier, he says from this consul, when these consuls were ruling Rome, it was a year 750 something since the foundation of Rome. But then later you read that Claudius celebrated one of his years on the 800th year of Rome. And when you compare the two, they're off by 4 years. So it's not consistent. The Romans themselves did not have a consistent set of numbers. There's a timeline set by Varro, which differs from a timeline set by Livy. And again, it's 4 years off. So then the other thing that we have is the list of Roman consuls. The Romans every year on January 1st selected two consuls, or they selected them a few months before, but they started ruling Rome, two individuals. So basically you have a pair of names that started on January 1st. In the past, they used to rule for the entire year. So if you knew a pair of names and you had a whole list of sequential list of names, you knew how many years had passed and in what year something happened. The problem is that around the time of Augustus and Tiberius, they stopped ruling for the entire year. So the initial pair consuls still defined the year, but then in July or in September, some other consuls started ruling. And those consuls were not the regular consuls, they were called the suffect consuls, or extra consuls. And what will happen if you confused a suffect consul for a regular consul? Then the list would expand. If you, like you would call in practice in ancient Egypt and even apparently in Rome, if one of the consuls had done something horrible they wanted to cross him off the list. So they crossed him off the list, and then the list would get shorter. So we had to take a critical look at the list of Roman consuls to make sure it is okay. The list of Roman consuls can be found, for example, very easily. Just search for list of Roman consuls. And here it is by Wikipedia. And you go down and you see them in the various years. You can pick the 1st century BC. So you see initially each year had only one pair of consuls. And sometimes this guy would rule for the entire year, but the second one, somewhere in the middle of the year, would drop out, and then he would be substituted by a different consul. So he would be called a suffect consul. And then as years went by, if you get to the reign of Tiberius, you see it's a mess. You have consuls that started in May, and then July, September, November. So it's very easy to confuse the regular consul, which will be the guys at the very beginning of the year, with these other guys. As I will show you, the list is incorrect that we have today. It's off by 1 year. So I will go ahead and show you how to correct the list. And the final goal is to be able to tell on which year was the 15th year of Tiberius, because on that year, that's when Jesus Christ was baptized. As Luke tells us in verse 3:1, it says, "Now in the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate being governor of Judea, and Herod being tetrarch of Galilee, and his brother Philip, tetrarch of Iturea, in the reign of Draconis, and Lysanias, the tetrarch of Abilene, Annas and Caiaphas being the high priest, the word of God came into John, the son of Zacharias, in the wilderness. And he preached baptism, and eventually baptized a few months later, he baptized Jesus Christ." So if we knew when the 15th year of Tiberius was, we would know when he was baptized. And we also know the age of Jesus Christ, because he was beginning to be about 30, which is I can't find it. 30. Misspelled. Began to be, and Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Eli. That's when he was baptized. So he was baptized on the 15th of Tiberius. He was beginning to be about 30. We'll have to discuss further into that. So if you knew the 15th of Tiberius, then you back out 30 years, and you find out when Jesus Christ was born. And when Jesus Christ was born, we see the Star of Bethlehem, which is an astronomical event that can be dated precisely and exactly. And I will show you how. Okay, so far we talked about some ways to measure time, either from Trojan War or the foundation of Rome, or by using the list of Roman consuls. And there's uncertainty in all of them. So how do you make sure? The only way to do it is to tie events to astronomical events. And for doing that, you need to use some astronomical tools. Fortunately, in this day and age, you no longer need to go to university, ask a university professor, get a book, try to get the list of lunar eclipses for the last 1,000 years or something. You can do it. You can be your own researcher. You can make your own opinions. You can investigate. And God, please do, because current historians and scholars are not doing their jobs, and they should be ashamed of what they've done, or not done, rather. In any event, the first astronomical tool I'm going to show you is the one I'm using. You can use any that you want. There may be even better ones that you have to pay for. This one is free, and it's called Stellarium. It's available at stellarium.org. If you click on that link, it'll bring you to where is it? To this page. On this page, you have a list of available operating systems. You have 3 Linuxes, you have Mac OS, you have a Windows for up to Windows 7, you have Windows for Windows 10 and above, and you can even have a web application. I have Windows 11, so I click on that. When you do click on that, immediately start downloading the program. Now, when you install the program and run it, you'll get a page that looks kind of like this. When the program opens, this is what you see. And this picture, you can replace that picture with any picture that you like. This is just a regular picture, and it shows the horizon, and you have some cardinal points over here. And when it starts at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it in small letters, it gives you the date, today's date, and you see the date is increasing. So this is tied up to your current view of the sky, and it's supposed to be in your own personal location. And they do this because this ties into telescopes, and the telescopes that tie into this program will bzzz and go to the area that you're pointing in the screen. But there are several settings that you can do to improve our investigation of the sky. The first thing that we need to do is stop the time from running. So you click on the play button over here, and you stop the time. So you notice the time stopped. Then what you can do is, for example, if we're investigating in Rome, there are several menu things. On this side, there's some menus. You can barely see them. And on this side, at the bottom, there's some additional menus. So let's pick the first button is the location. They also have hotkeys. For example, this would be F6. Let's put the location as Rome. So you can either enter it from a list, or you can actually enter the coordinates here in latitude and longitude. But they already have Rome in Southern Europe, so there is Rome. So now we have set the location. We can start setting also different settings. One of the settings that it took me a while to figure out is how to display the day of the week. So if you go to the configuration menu and click on time, and then use the last format, it says WW, that means week, then month, day, and year, which is what they use here in the United States. So now you know that today is Friday. Then we go to the sidebar and we click on Sky and View in Options menu, which is hotkey F4. And there we see that we have an atmosphere visualization. This is a useful button that I click on and off a lot of times if I want to see where the stars are during the day, because if you remove the atmosphere visualization, then everything is at night. So the sun magically stops doing light, and you can see where the stars are and the planets are during the day. So you can click that back and forth. Another useful thing is on sometimes it says scale the moon. As you know, when the moon goes near the horizon, it looks bigger and bigger because of distortion of the atmosphere. But if you want to look at an eclipse, you want the moon and the sun to be the right size. So clicking here will scale the moon bigger 4 times, but leave it off. This one, I'm not exactly sure what it does, but the next one, the markings, will give you very useful information. If you overlay a grid on the sky, use the azimuthal grid, it'll give you the degrees, it'll give you the degrees of elevation, which are this way. So you see how much a star has risen in the sky, and the degrees of azimuth, which is the north, west, east, south. Then you can do the equinoxes for our current date, the equinoxes, do the cardinal points, which is north, south, do the compass markers. So now you have a compass at the bottom. Then show the horizon and show the ecliptic. I think these are all the settings I normally use. So let's leave it at that. Yeah, so here's the ecliptic. The ecliptic is when a planet travels in the sky, it'll travel along that line. The moon and the sun will travel along this path. And these define the times of the year. So when the stars return to the same point, they return to 180 or to 0, then a year has been completed. Now, when we did the solstices and the equinoxes, you see here, it doesn't get any bigger, that at 180, that's the, let's see, that'll be the summer solstice. Here at 270 is the fall equinox. So you can figure out when the equinoxes are on any time of the year. The very useful thing about this is he has the ability to go back in time. If we set a date, this is searching. Here, and the icon looks like a little watch. It's hotkey F5. Tells you the time. So today is the 1st of August, 2025, and this is our This is the time in Rome because we changed because we changed the location. So you can put here the date in which you see the Star of Bethlehem. I'll give you as a teaser. I'll explain later how to find it. So that was on year 1 AD, on the month of November, and it was visible for several days around the 5th, and it was visible at sunrise. So we changed the time to about 5:30 in the morning. And if we want to see the light of the sun just coming around dawn, then use the atmospheric visualization switch there. So you can, let's move this down a little bit. So let's go here on the east, and we see that early in the morning, when the shepherds were just waking up, 5 in the morning, 5:04. Oh, one more thing that we can do, I forgot, one more setting, is the landscape. Like I said, this is a picture. Ideally, you'll have a panoramic picture of Jerusalem or Rome, or put a specific area. But if you don't, just use a zero horizon, which is just a flat ground. You can remove the ground if you want to see stars that are not visible below ground, like here, for example, the sun is below ground, hasn't risen yet. So you say show ground. And for the star lore, which defines the constellations, for now we can use the Western constellations. Now it allows you to show constellation lines, which I find a little distracting. For me, the best thing to do is show the art. Now the ancients, their livelihood depended on knowing what season of the year they were in. That's why the priesthood was so important. They calculated when the start of the year was and when the planting seasons were. And by looking at the sky, they could tell the constellations. I can't. I'm not familiar with them, but they could because their life depended on it. For example, let's move this. Let's show constellation nights for now. For example, they knew that this constellation was Virgo. We tie in the lines like this in astronomical papers and stuff. And the imaginary, using your imagination, shape would be a woman called Virgo. But that's not what's seen on the sky. The sky only shows this. Isn't that amazing? Them, by looking at this field of stars, they could tell that's the constellation. I sincerely can say that I can't see it. Maybe if you're the one I do recognize here, this is Orion, because this is the belt of Orion, very famous. And if you go ahead and you show the art, let's increase the brightness a little bit. Then you see that Orion is here. Well, in this case, the Western, they call it what are the constellation names? Let's go back over here. Show boundaries, show labels. So to show the names, you say show labels. So this is Orion. This is the belt of Orion. Another constellation that's easy to recognize is the Gemini constellation, which are, for the Greeks and the Romans, were Castor and Pollux. It's very important. I'll show you why later. Another one that was easily recognized was Taurus, because he had the set of stars, or the cluster of stars over there that I could recognize. In any event, the point I'm trying to make is that even though we in our current society cannot identify the constellations, they could. I need to have the little background to be able to identify it. In any event, as the morning wore on, the shepherds in Virgin Mary in a cave looked at the sky and he saw this incredible near conjunction of 4 planets. You have there Mars, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. They're all in the constellation of Libra, which has its own stars over here. It was right under the constellation of Virgo. And this is important when we look at the verses in the Revelation 12. So, as the day wears on, the stars come out, which is the host of angels, and then they disappear. Now you ask, well, if Jesus Christ was born when the star Bethlehem was on the sky, was that the date? Well, that's not the exact date, because it lasted for probably a couple of weeks. So when you can say that the Star of Bethlehem started is probably when most of the stars started getting together. So that would be around maybe October 30th, November 1st. And then there you have the conjunction of all the stars, the Star of Bethlehem. And then they start pulling away. So by 11, let's say 11:13, 11:14, it had disappeared. So if the Magi or the wise men went to visit Jesus Christ, and they were guided by star, that means the Magi showed up within a few days of his birth. Some ancients believe it was like 2 years after. That's because Herod put the order to kill all the babies 2 years or less. But you can't tell from the Gospel of Matthew how much time passed between one sentence and the other. So in any event, this is a very useful tool that allows you to see the sky as the ancients saw it. Now there is another tool called EmapWin, written by a Japanese gentleman called S. Takesaku. And you'll find it at this website. If you go to that website, you'll see that it's free, and you can download it as a zip file. So you will go ahead and create a subdirectory for it, download the file, move the file to a subdirectory, and then extract it with zip. And then you will run the program. It's important that when you run the program, you run it from the directory. So traverse first to the directory. So this directory is all the files. And then run the program. One of these files is configurable. Like, I believe this is the file, location new. You can edit it with Notepad. And it lists the pre-selected cities in their longitude and latitude. So you can add a city in here. But for now, and this just let's just see what it does. EmapWin, you click on it, and it comes out. And this program is designed to provide you a list of all the eclipses in a particular location, or even around the world. Why can't I expand it? So you set the search criteria for all the eclipses, or you can set for a particular visible from a particular town. In this case, let's make it Jerusalem. Jerusalem. And then it discriminates all the eclipses. Only those are major eclipses with a magnitude higher than 0.05. You can see every single tiny little eclipse by making that number smaller, the magnitude 0.05. And then if you go to this little icon that looks like a list, that's where you enter the search criteria. Now for solar eclipse, there exists the eclipse that was observed by King Herod Agrippa in a date that's conventionally believed it was 44 AD. But now we know through this method that was actually 45 AD. As I'll show later, what historian Josephus calls the Caesar's Games were actually the Olympic Games. They were done on the same dates as the Olympic Games. And Herod Agrippa went to the Caesar's Games in Caesarea Maritima, which is the major coastal town that Herod had improved. And they were having some games there, and on the second day of the games, he looked up to the sky and saw an owl. Now, if you're looking for astronomical events, you realize that when you look up and see something, typically is a astronomical event. An owl was a bad omen, bad luck sign. So he says, "Oh, I saw a bad omen," and the bad omen was, as we shall see, was a solar eclipse. So we can search for a solar eclipse for the years of 40 to 46, so start year 40 and then 6 years. And then don't click OK. OK will dismiss the whole thing. That drove me nuts initially. I didn't think the program was working, but you had to say search. And you find that there were only 2 eclipses during those years. And therefore, Agrippa died on August 1st, AD 45. Now you combine these 2 programs, Stellarium that we already talked about in this program. So here's the, before we do that, so it displays, it has 2 display modes. It displays the track of the ellipse, so this is where the greatest magnitude eclipse could be seen, and this is the band of locations in the world in which you could see the eclipse. Or you can say display local. So display how it would have looked from Jerusalem. So you come here to Jerusalem. Oh, I lost it. Rome versus Jerusalem. And we see that it was a near eclipse at its highest magnitude, and that happened at universal time, which is in England on the Greenwich meridian, or at the local standard time, not the daylight savings time, around 9:55. Now this program doesn't have as much math because it deals with numerous eclipses over time. Stellarium, which is designed for a single event. So we go to date is 45801. We say draw. Sorry, that's the wrong eclipse. So once you click on that, you say draw, and you'll see that the date was August 1st, and the maximum eclipse happened at local standard time around 11. So then we go to Stellarium. We need to make sure that the town is Jerusalem. We enter the time. Okay. Which is 45. Around 11. And then we look for the sun. Do a search. When you do a search for the sun, you'll center it on the display. You can see a moon right there. So the eclipse happened around 11:21. Further, you can increase the minutes, and you see the eclipse happening as you go back and forth. The maximum eclipse is said here on the screen, eclipse magnitude 599. So you can go 0.62, 25, 31, 40. We passed it. So 639, 640, 641. Maximum magnitude is 0.641 at 1120. That means that 60%, 64% of the sun's surface was occluded by the moon. And that's how you do it. You can find the list of eclipses, and then to see it, you can go to Stellarium and find it. And this is what Agrippa saw as he was sitting on his chair watching the games. He was poisoned, he had a really bad stomachache, and died 5 days later. We'll discuss that in more detail later. So the other tool that we have that's needed is LmapWin, where the L stands for lunar eclipse. You go to that page, and this page is lunar eclipse simulation. In fact, he's got more apps that he has done. If you go to his main webpage, he calls it Astronomy. I haven't gone through all of these things, but I've tried his two programs, which are very good. So we go to lunar eclipse software. It's a zip file. As before, you create a subdirectory just for it. Don't mix the files. So you'll have its own subdirectory, unzip the file, and then you go ahead and find it. Here it is. From within the subdirectory, you run LmapWin. Yeah, finally, okay. And inside of it, again, you can search for all eclipses. You can search in a particular location, visible from a particular location. That would be Jerusalem. Oops. Jerusalem. You can specify a minimum magnitude. So let's see a very small, all eclipses, 0.05. And display, you can display what the local view would have been in Jerusalem. And then go to the list of eclipses. Now, all of the work I've done here is my own work product, with the exception of the date of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. A lot of people have worked on it, especially Mr. Humphreys and the other gentleman. But I'll show you how to independently come up with that date. The date of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ is April 3rd, 33 AD. So we can put, for example, here 32 start year, and look at 2 years. Actually, let's make it 30 AD. Let's make it 6 years. Yeah. So we go from 30 to 36 AD. And we search all the lunar eclipses that happen. Now we know that Jesus Christ was crucified on a Friday, and it was the 14th of Nisan. Nisan is the first month, lunar month of the Jewish people. And the 14th means it was on the full moon. So we have quite a bit of information there to discriminate between all of these. The reason one would be looking for a lunar eclipse is that in the Bible somewhere, Jesus said the moon would be darkened. Later he was crucified, and then while the Holy Ghost was descended on the apostles, people started thinking, oh, they're drunk, they're speaking in tongues. And then Peter said, no, they're not drunk. It's because the end of times has happened, or something like that. And then he repeated the prophecy, and he says the moon is red. I'll go into more detail later. Well, in fact, we can see it right now. Let's look for it right now, instead of just talking in general. So we need our PDF. Yeah. Open all these files. One of them is the Holy Bible. So we search moon will darken. Well, let's look for the moon. And the moon became as blood. Okay, so that's the revelation. This is the Acts. And Peter says, Peter, standing up with 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all that dwell in Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken unto my words. For these are not drunken, as ye suppose, seeing that it's about the third hour of the day, but this is which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And it shall come to pass in the last days, said God, I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And here's the prophecy. And I will shew wonders in heavens above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire, vapor and vapor of smoke. And the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood. He's saying that 40 days after Jesus was crucified. Now, Jesus had just, in Mark, Jesus answers to the disciples as he went into the temple. When they ask him, what should be the sign when all those things are fulfilled? And Jesus says, "But in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light." So now is the difference. Jesus says the moon will not give out her light. It's basically dark. But Peter says, no, it looked like blood. And the reason he said that is during the crucifixion, there was a lunar eclipse. That's the beauty of having a searchable text for the Bible, that you can do this type of searches pretty quickly. So then, if we look at April 3rd, 43, we see that we can't see the initial eclipse, but we can see the last part of the eclipse. So it was barely visible. So we say, okay, well, what happened? Let's go see what they saw. So let's make this 33 AD. It's April 3rd. And let's look at when it's starting to get dark. Now, what happens on the Passover? What's called the day of Passover is actually the day of the preparation of the Passover. And the feast of the Passover, when they eat, is actually on the next day, on the 15th. But for the Jews, the day started at sunset. So they're all looking at sunset. They all want to eat, but they can't eat until the sun sets. So they're all looking at the horizon. Oops. Sorry. And at the same time, the moon is appearing on the other side. And guess what? As the moon rises on the east, the moon is red. The little bit at the top, which you see first, is completely red, and then the rest of the moon is under the umbral eclipse, and it's reddish. If you click on the moon to display its characteristics here, you can't see it. Let's erase the ground for a moment. Yeah. So here's the horizon, and just so we can see the letters. You see that there is a penumbral eclipse of 121%, so it's completely reddish. And there's an umbral eclipse, the main eclipse, which is the little clip over here, of 13%. And then as the moon goes up, the penumbral eclipse starts going away, and let's see when it ends. The penumbral eclipse lasts several hours. So most of the night, the moon was reddish until so sunset was around 16 hours, 20. So for 4 hours, the moon from here to here was reddish on the day that Jesus Christ died. Giving you this this date as an example of how you use the LmapWin, EmapWin, and Stellarium all in conjunction, how you use them to figure out what the ancients saw from their location. This is what they saw in the sky. Well, with exception of the overlay for the constellations. What they really saw is this. Yeah. This is what they really saw. And like I explained, they depended on being able to identify the constellations just by looking at them. Like, for example, this is Castor and Pollux, because they're very bright. This is the belt of Orion. I happen to know those. A lot of people happen to know pole star, which is around here somewhere. So even today, some people still can recognize some of them, but the ancients, depending on it, and were able to imagine particular constellations. So this concludes my episode 1, basically showing you astronomical tools that we're going to use, that you need a searchable version of the Bible. Use your own. This is the one I recommend. You can easily see verses of the Bible by just typing Luke 2:10, for example, on Bible Gateway, and then you'll see it here. The nice thing about it is this gives you King James version, but you have all these other versions. You have the Living Bible version, you have the New American Standard Bible, New English Translation. And the reason is that the translations are not set in stone. Some people have thought a better translation for some terms than a different version of the Bible. So sometimes it's interesting to look at the different types when you're questioning something. You know, go and look at the different types of Bibles there is. And here they are. Look at all these different versions of the Bible. They're basically the same except for perhaps translating one word or two. I'm not going to question. Now, please support my work. The most important thing is that you like and subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll see all my following videos. And you can also please buy my book. Here, The Chronology of Jesus is told by the Gospel of John. The problem with the Synoptic Gospels, which are Mark, Luke, and Matthew, is they all have the same chronological framework. And that framework was defined by Mark. So that means that the final version of Matthew was written after Mark was written. And the final version of Luke was written after Mark was written. Because Mark wrote down various sermons that Peter gave in Rome. And each sermon was different. Each sermon talked about a different thing. So when he wrote down all these sermons, he had to put them together, and he put them together not in order. As Papias tells us, Papias is one of the earliest historians, the church fathers recognized that they were not in order. The stories were not in order. The stories were true, but not in order. Now, the Gospel of John was written by Apostle John, or at least dictated by Apostle John. And he's a single person, and he provides a narrative that's continuous. So using John as a guide, you can organize the different reports of what Jesus Christ did. The other book I wrote is my first book. It's the birthday of Jesus Christ as told by the New Testament. This is where I figured out when Jesus Christ was born, and figured out where the start of Bethlehem was could be seen. It's my first book. I wanted to make it bigger with color pictures and Excel sheets when I talk about the problem with the dates because of the death of King Herod. That people think that he died in 4 BC. Well, that's not true. He died in 2 AD. And as a result, making it with large pages and colored, it came out, the production cost came out to be a lot larger, so it's more expensive. I'm sorry about that. By the time I did this one, I did a smaller book, black and white, and then I figured also how to do a Kindle book. So the Kindle book is only $10. So go ahead and support me, and I will try to show you how you can go ahead and figure everything out. I'm giving you tools, and you make your own opinions. Okay, thank you.